Ready to go? Good, excellent. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Plan Advisory Committee meeting of Frome Town Council. My name's Steve Tanner. I'll be chairing this evening. We normally have a hybrid and in the town council chamber here working. So tonight is exactly the same. For anyone online, please raise their hand and your question will be read out, or if you want to answer it in person, we can do that as well. For any purposes in the room, please raise your hand. Any councillors, any questions, usual thing, please raise your hand. Emergency exit to the right, toilets are down the end of the corridor, the assembly points in the car park. Not expecting any fire alarms tonight. Anything else? Is that it? Great. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Is it? Got any questions or comments from councillors? No? There's no one else. Item 2 on the agenda, apologies for absence. Got Fiona Barrows, Andy Jones, that's it. Oh, we've got to vote on that.
That's unanimous, thank you.
Good. Item 3 on the agenda is the minutes of the last meeting. If anyone's got any comments on those, if not, can someone propose for me? Thanks, Mark. You weren't here. Oh, you were here. I wasn't here.
So that's a majority.
That's a majority, yeah. Yeah.
And we also need to do declaration of members' interests.
Item number 4 on the agenda, declarations. Any declarations of interest? Anything else tonight, is there? No? No declarations of interest. Item number 5 on the agenda, to discuss the major planning applications received. Over to Catherine for the last time.
We need to say that James Clarking and...
That's tenuous, isn't it?
Oh, sorry. It's only script.
James Clarkin, by the way. Over to you.
Sorry, it's being slow.
Oh, we haven't got the screen.
Okay, so the first one that we're going to look at this evening is number 581, and it's 58. Oh, that's better. It's 581, and it's land to the rear of 3 Gentle Street, and it's change of use and conversion of an existing garage, number 8 to 10 building, to form a 2-bed holiday let. So this is the location plan. As you can see, it is off Christchurch Street East, and up the little alley behind St John's School, and it's the car park on the left-hand side, outlined in red. This is the existing floor plan and the existing elevations. It is just a garage. And this is the site plan. And it's car park with garages around the edge. And this is the proposed ground floor plan to have 2 bedrooms downstairs, bathroom and ensuite. And then first floor plan will have the living accommodation, so it's an upside down house. And these are the proposed elevations. So previously, and these are some pictures of the site as it is currently. There's been previous applications for, what's going to be in here? So the garages aren't listed, but they are curtilage listed for 3 Gentle Street, which is the old Wagon and Horses. There's been previous applications, one to form a 2-bedroom dwelling, which was rejected in 2017, and one to convert to offices, which was approved in 2018, and it's outstanding. It was found not suitable for domestic use, as the proposed development is sitting within a car park with windows and roof lights serving habitable rooms fronted by the car park. Limited outside amenity space, the accommodation being compromised by car noise, fumes, headlights from the use of the car park. It's got poor outlook and overshadowing, and the previous officer found it would fail to provide a satisfactory living environment for future occupants, with any public benefits associated with the development failing to outweigh the harm of the application. I was going to say something else, but I can't remember what it was.
The,
I think that's why they've gone for an upside down
yeah,
design.
the, the application for the domestic use actually went to appeal as well, didn't it? And that was
Yes.
refused.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the main issue with it. It's just completely unsuitable to be residential accommodation. It's in a car park. It's in a well-used car park as well. It's not, it would, ordinarily, we'd probably say it's in ideal infill infill housing, but it's a well-used.
Does a holiday let, is that classed as a residential?
Yeah.
It is. Right.
When I saw this application, I contacted some people I know who live in Gentle Street, the houses, in fact, that this is the back of, and said, "What do you think about this?" And they said, "What?" And then I looked at the consultee list. Nobody in Gentle Street has been consulted on this. It's all Christchurch Street residents who are nowhere near it who've been consulted, but nobody in Gentle Street, which is ironic as the address is rear of Gentle Street. The reason that the planning inspector threw it out previously as purely residential still stand. It's in a car park. The proposed development shows bedrooms on the ground floor where cars are moving all the time. It's not suitable for residential accommodation. It's a busy place. It's actually quite tight there. People will be driving, lights, etc., will be going into the bedroom all the time as people move around at the rear of these Gentle Street properties. And I find it strange that someone has applied for holiday let accommodation rather than just ordinary residential accommodation. Frome is overrun with stuff like that. We need accommodation for permanent people, not for, I'm not sure that's a planning ground to overturn it on. And even if you said it was for residential or holiday let, I don't know how that gets enforced or how anybody keeps an eye on that. But I will object to this, and it shouldn't be built. Not like this. It's, the live-work unit was just about acceptable because that would be office hours and the work was upstairs, the offices were upstairs, that was fine. But as a constant turnover of accommodation in a very busy car park, I think it's ridiculous.
Thanks, Mark. Anyone else? Polly?
I'll ask if you can go back to the site plan so that you can see the.
Trying, Polly.
Oh, is it being really slow?
There you go.
That bit, yeah. It's not altogether clear where we are. Is that the entrance to the car park here? No? Yes.
This is off.
Where your pen is now.
It's crushed.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, and then severely round the corner. That's right. And it's going to be there.
Yeah, you can see it maybe a bit clearer on the location plan.
Because some of that is quite tucked away, but some of it is really tight in there. Yeah, it is, especially there. I mean, if it were in a kind of quieter corner of it, I would say that maybe I'm not, I haven't been to the site, so I just can't visualize it. But has anyone?
I know it very well. Yeah, I know the site. Yeah.
I mean, I do know the site, having visited it in the past. Sorry, Catherine, if you could go back to the next one, I think. Yes, it there. You've got the entrance there at the bottom right, and then you have depicted the building with two cars next to it. To me, and when I looked at this previously, it looked as if they're all out of scale, because that's the pinch point in the car park, and they are assuming, I think from this, 2 cars max, but that's very, very tight in that space. And when I looked at it, to me, it doesn't look as if they're actually to scale.
It's this end bit, I think, where the bins are. So I do think 2 cars might fit in there, but between the the blue car on the end coming out, it'd just be really tight. Like 2 cars could fit if no one else is parking on the other side.
Yeah, and I also think that in this particular plan, the 2 cars drawn are relatively small cars rather than larger vehicles that may turn up, because there's no saying what kind of vehicle may turn up. It could even be a large camper or something like that. But I do think it's that is one of the concerns I would have, and I agree with what Mark was saying. I would oppose this.
Thanks. Brilliant. Anyone else? Lisa?
It's
Hello, Helen. Oh, I better move back then.
the little house, converting a garage into a house in a car park.
I agree with everything Mark and Philip have said, in all fairness. So I think the objections on the previous applications sort of still valid, aren't they, really, in my mind? So hearing that we're going to object on this one. Yeah, someone propose that, please. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Mark. Thanks, Philip.
That's unanimous, thank you.
Hello. I better move back. Back again.
Well, why don't you leave the chair there?
Huh?
Why don't you leave the chair there and then you can keep going back and forth? Yeah, a swivel chair.
TV over there and I can lift that.
I don't know where the TV's gone.
I think we will as well.
Is there a particular one you want to talk about, Helen?
I was interested in the Sainsbury's that was industrial. So
That's on here. Do you want me to do that first and then you can? Okay. So, in a slight change to the scheduled programming, we are looking at 588 Land North and South of Sandys Hill Lane, and it's the application for approval of reserve matters following the outline approval, and it's condition 4, which is the associated landscaping, parking and servicing arrangements, along with details submitted pursuant to condition 2, which is design, green infrastructure, energy and phasing. So this is the master plan of the site. You can see that phase 2 is the one not built yet, in purple on the left-hand side. Phase 1 is already existing, I think. And then further phasing to come. So this is
What have they changed?
they've changed the layout of the car park. So this is the previous proposal, which was to see the lorries and deliveries coming through the car
park.
through the car park, which they have changed so they loop round and then back up to the top,
Through the car park.
still through the car park. I don't know why they built this one first and not that one first. Oh, well then I don't know why they don't just change the whole layout so it works properly.
Why don't you just let them know? Why don't you just do it better? Sainsbury's.
But it's
C minus.
It's actually B&M, I think. Oh, home bargains, sorry. That's my opinion
The
on it.
issue is still remaining, isn't it?
They're still in through the car park. And I also noted that the extra traffic from the Curo development hasn't been taken into account because Curo hadn't been finished when this was first.
Same as the
Done.
Lane one, yeah.
Yeah, Curo's is now done. The access point from Sandys Hills Lane looks really narrow for HGV movement.
It's the Civic Society's comments.
And the developers have decided to rectify objections about the lack of soft landscaping by removing the proposed trees.
Eat that.
some of the objections were to the design of the soft landscaping, so they've taken all the trees out. I assume they've taken the trees out to improve visibility for the HGVs, but I just thought it was ironic and funny. Or am I over this one?
Helen.
Do you mean they've taken the trees out in the car park or taken the trees out on that southern hedge?
No, in the proposed scheme, the previous one. Oh, I've not got it in here, but there were trees proposed, tree pits proposed, in the car park,
Okay.
but they're now not in the. So that's superseded wrong.
Okay, can
Sorry, Helen, go on.
I? Well, two things. First of all, I can't remember. I didn't check it because it was about 6 months ago, but I objected to this on the grounds of, first of all, that building 1 seemed to go through and it did not appear in my inbox at all. I was not consulted on it. So the first time I saw it, it was to have that southern extension on it. And I said that that was going to push into the hedgerow, the natural hedgerow that was there. And they also seemed to want to take away the hedgerow on the southern side of the car park. And there was no, they said that they were going to come back later with an some kind of big sign, illustrated sign to go on the roof. And I complained about that as well, because I said it's the highest point pretty much. So you're going to see it from, if you're coming up the bypass. Now, I know that Selwood Garden Village might go ahead, but if it doesn't, going back to the original way that the local plan part 2 allocations were made, the inspector said we need to look at landscaping carefully on this sensitive hilltop location. They were his words. And so I have fought very hard to try and get good landscaping on the Curo site, which was rubbish, and it's still not that great. Sorry if anyone's listening, but I think that we can't then just let it go when these developments go up and not demand good landscaping as well to hide it from without. Anyway, I also asked about they were going to build a cafe, I think, or something, or there was going to be some ability for people to stay overnight. I can't remember exactly what it was, and I was concerned about the number of toilets on site. And it turned out that they're not making special provision, they're just planning to link into the sewer that Curo has already built. So I raised that as an issue and something else. Anyway, it turns out that Curo, I think, also put an objection in, having perhaps been prompted by yourselves and myself, and they've come back with this, I think, improved plan. So what I'm going to try and do is go back to Curo as well and say, well, are you happy with it? You know, have you sorted out what's going to happen with the foul drainage, for example? And I think that this new plan also has hedgerow now going all the way along and including the southern edge of the car park. I think it does, and so that will be hidden a little bit. But I am concerned about, really, there should be some trees along there, I think, to hide the whole development from without. And I also, by the way, mentioned the same thing as you did about the access road. If that building on the left, phase 2, was not the shape that it was, they could go out the other side onto the development that's going to be proposed on the other side and use their access road, or they could go north through the back of Sainsbury's there. They could get an arrangement with Sainsbury's and they could use that as an access road. The thing that I haven't seen before is all the stuff to the east. That blue bit, I've never seen that before, and it just shows how narrow it is. So this is all in one, this all seems to be, this is 2 applications, I think, or even 3. But it shows how narrow that bit there is and how difficult it is going to be to access. Now, I happened to bump into Kevin Bird, who's an agent for this site, and he said, I mean, I fought very hard to try and get other access points, like by the back of the recycling centre. And he hinted that that might be possible. And even just there on that map on the eastern edge, it looks like there may well be an access point going out. So I'd like to get that clarified. Is that going to be an access point going out? If so, I think this would be improved greatly, because it's going to be so difficult for all these lorries to be coming in via past McDonald's. And we know there's already queues there, and we know that's a poor access point. And it's also just a very narrow point, narrow site. It's going to be hard to market it unless we've got that access road to the right. So in my response to this, I'm going to be mentioning that. Thank you.
It does say care home, yeah.
Is that confirmed?
I don't know whether it's confirmed, but I think the fact that they've put it on there suggests that they've probably got a care home interested. And I must admit, my comment was, I don't think that's a very good location for a care home.
Is to the right of the care home, are those all industrial units? So a care home with no community around it? And where's proper job in relation on this?
Yeah.
Okay, so just up in there. I just can't get my bearings.
I think, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, proper job is,
Yeah,
I think that's proper job, that's the pet shop.
yeah,
Further up.
okay.
Yeah, one of them.
And then to the south of what they're proposing, that will be, no, in the where it says master plan.
That's the development.
Yes, so okay. Yeah,
Yeah. This is where you think the extra access is, yeah?
I don't think there'll be any link necessarily to the Curo community, because I think that is some kind of a bund at the back there as well, to shield the commercial and residential.
Wasn't all this, though, supposed to be employment?
Yes,
There's the care home.
I could argue that a care home is a business rather than a residence. So
is that what it's actually classified as?
I'd have to double check that, but I think it probably falls within the use.
I think we need a lot more information on this.
Residential care home and residential. I'd need to check. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a very good location for it. But they've put it on there for a reason. They haven't just thought, oh.
Something about this doesn't feel right. A few things about it don't feel right.
Care home by a skate park seems a good idea, doesn't it? We need a lot more information. There's so many various things.
I mean, at the moment, all you're considering is the variation of the condition and the changes that they've made to the phase 2, phase 1. Yeah. So
Phase 2.
yeah, I mean that plan is showing a master plan with things on it that we haven't previously seen, which we can raise concern about in advance. But what you're actually considering tonight is whether or not the changes that they've made in the car park and the landscaping at the back are acceptable.
So, Philip, sorry.
Okay.
Just join in.
One of the concerns I had last time, and I have with this, even more so now, looking at what might be that proposed exit that Helen was highlighting and may come out near the recycling centre, is that even though the proximity of the bypass is fairly close, it's almost there, to me, what this seems to do is to push more and more traffic through town, particularly going along Locks Hill and out town that way, and then coming across the Butts or Locks Hill and then going towards Radstock. It doesn't seem to be doing anything to mitigate against that by having access points that could where vehicles and lorries can easily get onto the bypass. And having been followed here this evening by a very, very large quarry lorry coming through town, literally along Christchurch here. That's basically my point, is that I think if it's not carefully thought about, we're going to have more and more of that traffic, because once they're in that part of town, the temptation is just to go through it, to get across it, or not to go around it.
Thanks. What else? I personally can't see how we can do that. Sorry, do you want to speak?
No, I just don't know. how
Right.
to make a decision on what we're supposed to make a decision on because it seems too complex.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I can't see how we can make a decision on that without knowing how all that's going to fit in.
So the outline approval already exists for that unit and the one next to it. So irrespective of the other phases, that can't be changed. What they're applying for, so there was a condition on the outline application about the landscaping for that unit. We objected to that landscaping because we thought it was unsafe with the HGVs. Can you show the previous one, Catherine?
Yeah.
So the HGVs literally going through the car park around the back to the delivery bay. There'll be people, there'll be shoppers mingling around in that car park, and you've got huge, great HGVs coming through. So in response to that, and we weren't the only ones that made that objection, in response to that, they have changed how the delivery lorries come in. So now instead of going through the centre of the car park, they're effectively doing a loop around it, but essentially they're still driving HGVs around a car park. So
I don't understand why they can't use Sainsbury's Service Road and go straight in.
So I think my take on it would be that actually they haven't overcome our original objection, which was the danger of having HGVs in a public car park. The other elements of it, the further phases that that everybody's just gone about, we're not considering those at the moment. I presume in the future we will be, because they'll have to come back as an application, but that doesn't mean to say that we can't get in touch with Kevin Bird and ask him what's going on.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Pushkin.
I am a bit confused because when I first looked at this, there seemed to be 3 applications. And as I said, wasn't consulted about that phase 1 going through at all. I don't know if you were, but I don't know why I was left off that list. I checked all my emails. And what's happened is that you've been sent 2 applications, I think, and that does include the blue bit, the outline. I think it does include, it doesn't? All right, okay, there's
Haven't seen anything else.
04 something and there's 0350. Or there's 2 that came out on the same day to be consulted on, and one of them is in Selwood. So Selwood get to comment on this.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
'Cause it's in Selwood.
But you get to comment on both of them.
But we haven't been consulted on the Selwood one.
Notified.
I thought I saw your name copied in, but if perhaps I need to forward it, I thought I saw your name on it. Okay, I'll check.
Unless it's come in like today, but I haven't seen anything.
Okay,
We'll check, Helen. For the moment, all we're considering is the changes to the landscaping in the car park.
And we maintain it.
I think, I think we maintain our objection. Has anyone else has got any other? Thanks, Philip. Thanks, Mark.
And that's unanimous, thank you.
Oh, we got there in the end.
We'll check that other application, Helen.
Okay. The next one is 583, which is 20 Castle Street, and it's a single-storey rear extension to replace outbuildings and a reinstatement of window to the front elevation. So site plan and location plan on the screen currently. It's the large central house in a bay of terraces. I thought I had a good elevation picture, but so this is the existing plans. I don't think it's been done up in a very long time. As you can see, it's outdoor bathroom, store and storage in the extension, kitchen downstairs, etc. Bedrooms upstairs. Don't think there's an upstairs bathroom. This is the existing front elevation, side elevations. Bye. And then this is the proposal. So to have a much larger width, same length, extension redone, and then reconfiguring the general layout of the property. And this is the proposed elevation. So they're also proposing to make good a lot of previous work. So the house was rendered with cement and they want to take the render off and repoint. So it'll be rubble, coarse rubble again. Fixing damp, fixing, that's the house. You'll recognize the house on the left. It's just in a very poor state of repair and they want to, yeah. It's just this is a select few of the pictures, but there was loads.
What they're doing makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I think the people that have bought it, I think one of them's a heritage carpenter or something similar. So it'll be. Oh, brilliant, Mark. Go ahead.
The applicant, Mr. Ellis, invited me around there as the ward councillor, and knowing I'm on planning, to show me what he's trying to do here. He bought the place. It is practically derelict. The elderly resident who I think died in there was living more or less in this, let's call it a modern extension, this the single story thing, and didn't go anywhere else in the house because the stairs were rickety and falling down. That, I think, was their only sanitary arrangement. Certainly smells like it. And the rest of the house was completely unused. The beauty of that is all the original features are in there. The flags, the lintels. You can see that he started chipping away the render on the front of the house. That's going to be restored to brickwork with lime mortar, so that's all going to come away. Unfortunately, the very top there, the top windows, I'm told by a stonemason, are one of the few examples of the original sort of Froome windows, probably from the 1600s or something, but they're too far gone now, so they're going to have to be replaced.
Like though, I think.
Sorry?
Being replaced like for like though.
Everything is like for like. I mean, there's a window that's going to be reinstated where the ladder is. There was a window there which is going to go back in.
See it on the elevation.
There you go. The applicant is a, well, young man, mid-30s, with a young family. It's a family home. It's going to be a family home. And he's a surveyor in historic buildings. Very, very sympathetic to what realizes he's got a heritage asset here and wants to make it a family home whilst preserving all the features. And this modern bit at the end will basically be the only modern bit, and that's knocking down a later addition anyway. So it's going to be a heck of a job for him to do, but he's doing it all the right way. Like the wooden lintels above the windows will be replaced with wooden lintels, oak lintels. And it's going to be a fantastic family home, and I don't have any reason to disbelieve him. I see the Civic Society are concerned about parking. He said it'll be a 4-bedroom house with parking. If you go back to the site plan, there, in the smaller diagram, there's a big space. That's the car park behind the old printing works. There's a piece of derelict land adjoining this business at this address, which backs onto that. The applicant is making inquiries to acquire that, which will allow rear access to the building, and he'd like to do that before building starts in earnest so he can get skips in there, and eventually would provide some off-street parking as well.
Perfect.
So that would, and that's connected to his building. It goes behind the neighbour's building, but it connects directly to his property. And so I would support him in that. I think he's making a load of inquiries. He's quite diligent in this, and it seems he thinks it probably belongs to Somerset. So if that will shake out eventually, but we know they've got a lot on their plate, and I've reminded him of that. But that's what he would like to do there to make it joined up, and that would deal with the issue that the Civic Society have raised. No, I'd like to fully support this.
Yeah, it looks great, doesn't it? Any other comments from anyone? Should we, rather than no comment, absolutely support this one, I think? Yeah? You suppose that, Mark? Yeah?
I'll propose that we support this application.
That's unanimous. Thank you.
Hey, I only put that one in because I thought it was really nice and thought we should.
It's great to see that happening, isn't it?
So the final, my final planning is is 586 Unit D Station Approach, and it's the change of use of a basement to a winery and ancillary cellar door service. Here's a mouthful. So it is at the front of Dimensions, so straight off the Station Approach Road. And this is the proposed, this is the current and proposed site plan. I don't know why I put proposed roof plan at the bottom because it's not. Sorry about that. So they're literally just taking this bit of basement that's next to the tile shop, putting some wine equipment in there. He's at the,
There, isn't it?
yeah, so it's
Where that
underneath
white van is.
where the white van is, underneath City Plum. There's images of the site. This is the image of the basement.
How'd you get in there?
Through the doors behind the white van. So it's got support from Shane Collins as the ward councillor. Do you think it may be pushing slightly over into overdevelopment of the station area? I don't think there's enough drawings to really make a decision. I know it's a change of use, but more drawings of what it would actually look like would be good. And there's no explanation of the work needed to make it suitable.
As the ward councillor for Keyford, one, I just want to say I no longer have offices in the station, so there's no interest. I know that there have been a lot of complaints. Yes, this is what I'm referring to, for noise, excessive noise around that area. So I'm just concerned for the residents of Keyford that they're looking to make it a social space as well. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it'll be, sounds a bit on the design access statement, it'll be people popping in, trying a couple of sips of wine, buying their bottles and going home. Realistically, that's probably not what's going to happen. There's no assessment for lorries or anything passing through. So I doubt like grape delivery will be in massive lorries, but alongside deliveries for Dimensions, City Plumbing, Broom Rec. I don't think of any other big.
I don't have a problem with the party, and I don't have a problem with the party close to my house, but I know that a lot of residents are not pleased
Go on, Philip.
about that.
As one of the ward councillors, I do have some major concerns about this site. In the past few years, to me, it seemed as though it's a creep, as in it's creeping, and there's more and more and more actually taking place. And each stage, from the bit the little I knew before I became a councillor, and a little bit more since becoming a councillor, is that each stage sort of seems to represent, oh, this is what we want to do, that's it. And then the next thing comes along, and then the next thing comes along. So there are residents who are concerned. Butler's Gardens is one of them, because most people think about the people opposite on Wallbridge, but actually Butler Gardens is one area where there are concerns about noise and late night activities and so on. And I'm just getting concerned that it's getting to the point of overkill. Great to support local businesses, absolutely. Great to support them in innovations and new activities. But I think there comes a point when they themselves have to think, well, we're going a little bit beyond here. And if I'm really hypercritical, I would say that the initial aspirations of the enterprise of Rye Bakery, I think, seems to be lost. It's now becoming very, very commercially driven. And that in itself, I think, brings these issues that I certainly am concerned about and residents are concerned about. And I think something like that may well start off, as you say, somebody just to pop in, buy a couple of bottles of wine and sample it, but then may well become yet another venue, which has happened outside the front, which was supposed to be just some live music. Now it's live music, DJs going on to quite late at night.
Thanks for it. Any, can I, before, just a question on licensing. So if they're just selling bottles of wine, that's effectively an off license? If your people are sitting there and drinking the wine they've just bought, isn't that
So they would need to have an alcohol license for the sale of alcohol.
Yeah.
And then they would need to define whether it's on or
off?
for consumption on or off the premises. But that is dealt with through licensing, which is separate to planning. But I think I've got some sympathy with what Philip was saying, whilst we want to encourage local businesses, and actually, it's great that this has become a destination for businesses, there's clearly an issue for local residents. So I think maybe better, what's the word I'm looking for? Monitoring of what's happening there. I don't know whether the license for Alfred's wine has been approved or not. I haven't heard back from licensing about that, but what we could ask for as part of the change of use is that the hours of operation are restricted through planning condition. And also you could, if you want, and we can ask whether they will do that or not is a different thing, but also to ensure that it is only tasting on the premises and off-site, or sales for consumption off-site, rather than enabling them to have a bar as such. I'm sure there's a subtle difference there somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think if we don't start trying to nail down exactly how the site is used, the issue of disturbance to neighbours is just going to grow and grow.
In some ways, the whole site should have some sort of a licensing stroke time rule, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because the businesses have sort of developed at different times, each one will have its own individual license.
Right, some of them have got their own planning permission.
Yeah.
So the Cloud project planning permission, they've got restricted hours.
Mm.
And they have a different type of planning permission than other.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I remember talking to Steve from Rec about this when he had his concerns about the bike project being where it is, but also saying, that their deliveries are restricted and they would only operate at certain times of the day and mostly Saturday mornings, if they have to operate at weekends, certainly not Saturday afternoons and Sundays. What's happened here is that a business has come along and started up effectively what was just a bakery. And then other businesses have been attached outside in the car park, other business within the building, and so on and so on and so on. And there don't seem to be any restrictions there. And this is what I'm saying, bit by bit, license was applied for, alcohol license to sell. And then it's now been, applied for to be extended till 12 and then 1 o'clock. And residents, that's what residents are really concerned about. And also the fact that, and I know this directly from people at Rye Bakery, is that they have held, I don't know if they're going to hold any more, but they have held private parties, which mostly have taken place within the building, but that still causes a lot of concern and noise and so on for local residents. When all the other businesses are shut, gone home, this one starts up. So that's my main concern.
Yeah, I think that's what I meant about the wider monitoring of the site. That if this had started from scratch and there was a master plan and you could see that there was sort of adequate areas of parking for each area, and who is managing or monitoring when things open and close. I'm not sure that we can solve that problem just by responding to this planning application. But if we could get a condition restricting the hours of use, that would be a start, I think. That the complaints are more about the complaints are more relevant for the licensing authority than they are for us, and I think, but we should, be clear that we have, listened to that, and that there are some problems with the existing licensing that need addressing before it gets wider. Would we say that it's fine to make a basement into an extended winery, i.e. wine shop, or not? That seems fine, doesn't it? That seems absolutely fine. So in the wording of what it is here, what we're concerned about is the neighbourhood complaints, which should be addressed completely directly to the licensing authority. And all of us are feeling that there's some crossover here, and I think that we should comment on it, and that if there's any way that those could be passed to the licensing authority, I don't know if they would care, but there's obviously a little bit of a blur, isn't there?
And this, should this get planning permission, then it will also have to go to licensing as well, which it would be so much better if the two worked, or hand in hand, but that's unfortunately not how it's done.
Because if something's being reported to the police that's as a direct result of people coming to those venues, and that's things like, attempted break-ins and late night music, then that's sort of in direct opposition to the existing license already, surely.
You'd like to think so.
I had to appear before licensing board earlier this year about another premises. It seems that planning and licensing should operate hand in hand, because I think we would say, or we could say, yes, you change the use, that's fine. But then licensing will say signage, fire escapes, all that sort of stuff, which could be part of the planning. If there's no easy way of getting out of the building should it catch fire, heaven forbid, especially with all the stuff that's up above it in the industrial part of the building. I just don't know how it all links up. I know it should link up, but does it? I mean, do they talk to each other?
Unfortunately, I think there are three people involved. There's planning for the change of use. There's building regs to make sure that all the relevant safety, emergency exits and bathrooms, etc., are provided. And then there's licensing, who assess whether or not it's a suitable location for the sale of alcohol and what time would be suitable for them to operate. So, yeah, unfortunately, there are a lot of agencies involved, but I think if we think about all three of those agencies in our response, then that's recorded. And then when we get the licensing application, actually, just send the same comments back to say, these were our concerns. We don't get involved in the building regs side of things, but if building regs will only get approved if it's deemed to be safe. So, that's not subjective, that's an absolute. So we don't need to worry about that.
I think the latest extension that they applied for, I think, planning is planning and we comment on it and so on. But I think then a period of time goes by and then a license extension is applied for, which sort of just sneaks in. This is what I mean about creep. And taking Mark's point about, things happening all at once would be a lot better.
We do get consulted on the licensing applications, and what I do is forward those on to the relevant ward councillors and, ask for any comments.
That's what I mean, but it doesn't come to a formal...
It does, well, I mean, it can do.
Within the council.
The way that we've handled them before is consult with the two ward councillors, but if your response to me as ward councillors is, I want to bring that to a meeting for a wider discussion, then absolutely we can do that.
Because some of these objections from the public whom we represent do cross over both of those issues. So I think it's as long as our comments are there and you've got the licensing application flagged, then I think I think we could either abstain, couldn't we, or based on further information coming, or we could accept it, but we could accept it in principle, but with these comments, listened to from the public.
I think we'll be unlikely to get any more information because it's a change of use application. So they've provided all the information they're required to. It would be nice to have more, but I think
No, I mean, as part of other applications.
oh yes, yeah, absolutely.
What's the plan for the parking?
Saying the 6 at the front where dimensions use at the moment.
Yes, the 6 at the front where dimensions use, and the 6 round the back, opposite the bike project.
Okay, and that's shared between the wine shop and Dimensions? Okay,
It's got signs at the moment, so
yeah, and it would say both.
I guess, yeah,
I imagine,
they haven't commented on that.
sorry, I imagine people use it.
But does that mean then if people are coming to buy wine, where are they loading and unloading? I mean, where's the unloading
How
happening?
much wine are you buying?
Where's 6 bottles you need to put in a car, or to 12 bottles, you're not just popping in for a glass. So where's that going to happen? I mean, already there are starting to be concerns. I haven't had anything official. No one's approached me, but there are concerns that during the day even, people park in the B&Q car park out at the station in order to access the train station, in order to access the station at the Rye Bakery.
I do.
Yeah. So in the evening you don't have so much of that, but also B&M have talked to I spoke to the manager there a while ago. They've talked about enforcing some kind of parking restriction within their car park.
The parking situation just seems, yeah.
I think overall, I don't think I have an issue with there being a wine shop and winery there. The issue is the potential spillover to a problem that people are already flagging, and how traffic is managed in that space. So I suppose I don't really object to it being there. The things that we're objecting to sit outside of this application are connected.
They need to go down as our comments, which I think is what Jane's already.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I talked about asking for some conditions. So restricting it specifically to that use so that it doesn't enable it to become a wine bar, and that it only operates between certain hours. The license that I believe was applied for by Alfred's Wine, which is part of the Rye Bakery, was until 11 o'clock every day except Sunday. No, sorry.
Every day except Saturday. Saturday was till midnight.
That's right, yeah. So 11 o'clock on Sundays, midnight for the rest of the week.
But if we're saying this is a wine shop, there's no need for them to be open till 11 o'clock at night, is there?
Well, it depends when they do the tasting. I mean, they could still open late into the evening for the tasting.
Can we just address this thing of a private party and how that falls into a license owner? That must be a massive grey area. So this is the premises that they're leasing that must have some conditions on it about noise anyway for the local area, right?
There must be.
No, because it's a commercial place. But the commercial place that has permission to use business use, but it's surrounded by residential area, so it has certain caveats within that, doesn't it?
We have to hold wedding receptions and things, don't we have a different licensing?
Yeah, we've got a separate license here that allows us to hold events. So, those units have been there for a very long time. So I don't imagine there was any restriction put on those units when they were built, because nobody envisaged that they would be used for a bakery or a wine bar or even food outlets. It was purely commercial. So I think that's why now anything new that goes in there is when you need to start looking at the restrictions. As like I said at the beginning, if this was a new build, you would have a proper master plan, which would show which areas were sort of designated for which to make sure that there was enough parking for the site overall, and you would probably have some quite specific conditions on how it was used. But given the amount of time that's been on there, I doubt very much whether there's any restrictions like that at all.
Because also Butler's Gardens wasn't built.
Yeah.
Sucks for them. Yeah. If we can flag the license application, that would be great.
How would you like to vote on it?
Should we just recap where we are? So, right, jump in if this is, when this goes wrong. We don't really have an objection for a wine shop there as such, but it has to be subject to strict licensing regulations, which should incorporate very minimum restricted hours of use. Go on.
I would suggest that you have, say, no objection to the use as the wine shop or however it's described. However, a condition should be applied to ensure that it's for the specific use of tasting and sales, and that the hours of operation should be restricted until whatever you think is a suitable time. I mean, they might close at 6, but if the hours of operation aren't restricted, they could.
Should we mention a time then, do you think?
I think you should say that the hours of operation should be restricted in line with the licensing hours for the surrounding
It
property.
says here that Rye Bakery already opens until 10 p.m. I don't know if that's the case, because this is just the petition from the local. Oh, this is the petition to the license application, actually, not to the planning.
Yeah, to the license. I think it would be unfair to ask for their hours to be restricted to lesser times than the surrounding businesses. So, if the hours of operation are restricted in line with the licensing hours of the other surrounding businesses.
This is a tricky thing, isn't it? That we look at, say, a signage from a nearby DIY shop as interfering with, nearby residents are supposed to be turned off at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, where it was. And yet, going back to Lisa's point about being a site, if this was a business and they were drilling and sawing and what have you till all hours, it would, someone would put a stop to it. And this is what I mean about the creep. I do have serious concerns that this will open up as a wine store, then possibly wine tasting, and then it'll just move on.
Which is why hopefully that condition, which is very specific, I mean, it might not stop it from happening, but if it does happen, at least then there's something to enforce against.
Okay, yep. With that. She said.
So is that your vote?
Well, I think so, yeah. What she said. Yeah, I think that makes sense to me, I must admit. We're feeling.
Do you really want me to say it once more? It might. So, no objection in principle to the use as a wine shop. However, we would like to ensure that a condition is added to specifically for that use, and that a bar, or however you want to describe it, is not allowed as part of this permission. We'll come up with much better wording than that.
An off license?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Where we started, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that the hours of operation are restricted in line with the licensing hours for the surrounding businesses.
Shall we just pull the language back from what's in here? And it says to winery and ancillary cellar door service. So they're not talking about a wine shop.
No, it was the heading that I couldn't remember.
Yeah. So they're not even suggesting that it's actually going to be a shop per se, but that you can buy wine from the winery.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. If they apply for change of use and they get it, and it becomes change of use to a winery and ancillary seller, does that mean if they then leave and Dimensions want their basement back for storage and other basement things, do they then have to apply for a change of use to go back to it being a basement?
Yeah, once the consent has been implemented, so once somebody's been in there, even if it's for a day, and used it as a winery, it would need a change of use to go back.
And on that, and on that point, if the application is as it is, if they then want to actually sell wine, do they have to apply for change of use, or is it just a license?
I'd need to double check that because it depends that the use classes changed quite a while ago now, but there used to be a clear-cut definition between on-site consumption and off-site consumption.
That is the off license, isn't it? So an off
It
license
is, but
a
it-
license to
It did, but there used
sell for consumption.
to be specific planning use classes, and I can't remember whether or not that changed in the new.
That's what I'm asking, because if you're just a wine store and people go in and buy wine, that's one thing. But if you start wine tasting, then you have tables and chairs and people sit down, et cetera,
Yeah.
and then it becomes something else.
Well, what people do is have an off license, then they put tables and chairs outside, you buy the wine inside. You take it out to a table and chair with your own glass or whatever and get on with it, yeah.
But that's my main point, is that it opens up as a wine shop, and then in a few months' time, 6 months' time, as I said before, sort of almost under the radar,
Yeah, become a...
license is applied.
That's why that condition is important, so that it restricts that from happening. As I said earlier, it might not stop it from happening, but if it does, it can be enforced against.
Run it by us again, Jane. You can get it from the minutes, from the recording. Right, so we vote on that? Are we all happy with that? Yeah. I'll propose what Jane said, which we'll get from the minutes, okay?
And that's seconded by Mark, and,
You abstaining or voting against or? Right,
and that's a majority.
majority.
Okay, I think that is the last one.
You just have to do the others and agree.
Yeah, so we agree that we follow Catherine's comments for the final time on the, on all the others. So if someone could propose that for me. Thank you, Mark. Great.
The music.
So the next meeting is on the 31st of October, Halloween, and that's all I'm saying about that. Get in trouble. Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Thank you very much, Catherine. It's been it's been a wonderful. How long have you been with us now?
2 years
2
and a
years.
couple of months.
Ah, that's very sweet. And this is just a little something from us. Anyway.
Oh, Peter said you can't embarrass people on there.
You can, and it's still been video, just in case you're not too embarrassed. There you go, Catherine.
thank you.
That's
Oh,
from the
that-
planning team.
Thank you. And they're small, so-
Thank you very much.
Oh, they're lovely.
Have great fun working in London.
I will do.
Great.
If not, I'll be back in 6 months. Congratulations. Thank you.
Cool. Do you want to stop recording, Becky? Thank you.